Curse magic items are items which come with benefits and downsides for attuning to them. Sometimes the curses are mild and non-threatening, but there are others that possess effects that might be considered too dire to be worth the hassle, even if the positive benefits are pretty good. So in this video, we'll be focusing on these types of cursed items, as we name some of the worst magic cursed items you might come across on your journey. And starting off by spreading its demonic influence is the Demon Armor from the Dungeons Master's Guide at number 10. This very rare item acts as a +1 plate armor that allows you to understand and speak Abyssal, while also gaining the ability to deal damage with your unarmed strikes equal to 1d8 due to the magical claws your gauntlets come with. Unfortunately, this comes with the downside of being unable to doff the armor unless you're targeted with a remove curse spell or something similar, which would allow you to take off the armor and unattune to it whenever you want. However, the curse on the item still remains. As long as you're wearing the armor, you have disadvantage on attack rolls against demons while also having disadvantage against their spells and special abilities. While a +1 to your AC is certainly nice to have, being a very rare item means that you're losing on an extra 2 AC bonus from just a +3 armor, which would normally be granted this tier of rarity. That being said, losing some AC on magic items usually means that the upsides make it worth the slight downgrade. In this case, however, you only get the benefit of speaking and understanding Abyssal, which might help in a more demon-focused setting. But making your unarmed strikes deal a magical 1d8 slashing damage isn't really that useful at this stage of the game. Monks can't wear heavy armor, and even if they could, their martial arts die would be at around a d8 by the time the demon armor would become available. Meanwhile, every other class that would want to wear heavy armor, paladins, fighters, and even some cleric subclasses, usually have access to weapons that are on par or even better than the unarmed strikes provided by the demon armor. The only thing you could argue is the stylish and coolness factor provided by having gauntlets with demonic looking claws to slash your enemies with, but nothing more than that. As for why this item takes number 10 spot on this list, it's mainly due to the fact that just aren't very many benefits provided by the armor given how many downsides it comes with. You're essentially trading some decent AC bonus you would normally get for 2 flavorful options while also having disadvantage on the very thing the armor is based on. You can't use the armor to fight demons, but you can use it to understand them and even talk to them, for instance. This is obviously not a magic item anyone would take willingly, but if you have to use it, consider avoiding any and all demon encounters until you're able to unattune to the armor via a remove curse spell. Otherwise, just try and go for a normal +3 armor like everyone else. And at number 9, we have the Berserker Axe from the Dungeons Master's Guide. This is a rare +1 axe which grants the attuned creature to it half of the benefits of the tough feat, where instead of increasing a creature's maximum number of hit points by 2 per level that they currently have, it increases their hit points by 1. This is a pretty hefty upgrade for any creature with a heavy focus on gaining as many hit points as possible, such as a barbarian, which already has a huge number of hit points to begin with due to their hit die being the highest in the game at a d12. Combine this effect with tough and the dwarven toughness racial feature that hill dwarves get, which also has the same effect as the Berserker Axe, you would effectively be gaining an extra +4 hit points per level, which is also retroactive, so no need to worry about taking any of these too late. This effectively means you would have +80 hit points total at 20th level. However, since this is a cursed item, you can't have your cake and eat it too. While attuned to the axe, you're unwilling to part with it and keep the axe within reach at all times, which is box standard for a lot of curse items. You also have disadvantage on attack rolls with weapons other than the Berserker Axe, but goes away if there aren't any enemies within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear. So you might still be able to pull off a range attack normally if you need to for anything beyond 60 feet. But the biggest downside you get when it comes to the Berserker Axe is the fact that whenever you take any damage while the axe is in your possession, you must succeed a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw or essentially go berserk. While in this state, you're forced to use your action every round to attack the nearest creature with this axe, using all of your extra attacks if you have any, and automatically moving to the next nearest creature if you manage to fell the one that you were attacking in the first place. And if you have multiple targets within reach, you can pick at random. This effect does not discriminate. So, if your barbarian is unlucky enough to go after the enemy in the first round of combat and is trapped by an AoE spell like Fireball, your next turn would be spent chopping up your own party members rather than going after the enemies, which can be a scary sight to behold if the berserked party member happens to be your barbarian. Worst of all, this berserker doesn't end until the start of your turn with no creatures within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear, which might be a problem if you have a lot of movement speed, as even if the combat ends, you can still start chasing your party members. In situations like this, it might be good for a spellcaster to pack sleep on an off chance that you're low on health, or any other form of crowd control to keep you in place while everyone else moves out of range or out of line of sight. Unfortunately, unlike many other cursed items, Remove Curse does not actually do anything for the axe. The only thing that you can do is use this spell on the axe itself to instantly unattune to it and free yourself from the curse. Usually, some cursed items will at least allow you to get rid of part of the curse, but not always the most debilitating parts of it. In this case, however, you have to take the axe at face value and make the decision whether or not the chance to go berserk is worth the extra 1 hit point per level. In most cases, however, the choice is pretty clear, as even if you get tapped by a magic missile or take damage from a trap, you just turn on your party members or any innocent bystanders that might be standing around, which can cause a bit of unwanted chaos for the group. And at number 8 on this list, we have Harkon's Bite from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. This uncommon direwolf tooth is made into a necklace that you wear, granting you a +1 bonus to all ability checks and saving throws. The downside? Upon donning or removing the necklace, you are afflicted with werewolf lycanthropy, regardless of whether or not you are attuned to the necklace. This can be removed via a remove curse spell targeting yourself if you want to keep using the +1 bonuses, or you can cast a spell on the necklace itself to allow yourself to safely remove and unattune yourself from the necklace. As for what werewolf lycanthropy actually does, it's all explained in the monster manual. The short version is that you transform into a werewolf, inheriting all the benefits and downsides of becoming one. Specifically, as a werewolf, you gain a strength score of 15, if it wasn't already higher, and a +1 bonus to your AC while in your wolf or hybrid form. Alongside this, your natural weapons are based on your strength, which include your claws and bite attack. Of course, you also gain their damage immunities, which include immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, which aren't silvered. You might look at this and ask, well, what's the downside to all this? And you'd be right to ask this. Alongside being a creature of the night, being any form of lycanthrope runs the risk of losing control of your player character by having their alignment change by virtue of embracing the curse. However, this is at the discretion of the DM. If they decide to let you still play your character in their new role as a werewolf, then you don't really lose anything of value other than the social status and being feared by the common folk, which might have consequences on its own if your party interacts with people on a daily basis. Luckily, Harkon's Bite is a bit more lenient when it comes to lycanthropy in general. Instead of lasting until the lycanthropy is cured, the curse only lasts until the dawn after the next full moon. However, if you're still wearing the necklace by that time, you would be afflicted by the curse once more. As for why this item takes number 8 on this list, it's strictly due to how your DM would rule lycanthropy in general. While you aren't forced to give up control of your character, the option is always there, especially if you decide to embrace the curse altogether. And while there's no worse feeling than no longer being able to control your character the way you want to, there's always the flip side of the DM just allowing you to fully benefit from being a werewolf no matter what, while still accounting for the social consequences of doing so. But if you're looking for a magic item that does the same thing as the Harkon's Bite, but without the curse attached to it, you're much better off with the Stone of Good Luck, which also grants a +1 bonus to ability checks and saving throws, and is also an uncommon item. Or you can just be greedy about it and have both magic items so that you can stack the bonuses, making it a +2 bonus instead. And projecting itself onto the number 7 spot on this list is the Voidwalker Armor from the Book of Many Things. This rare studded leather armor grants you the ability to use your bonus action in order to summon a projection of yourself within 30 feet to an unoccupied space. The projection is translucent and immune to all damage and conditions, but allows you to make attacks and cast spells with a range other than self through the projection as if you were the one standing in its place. The projection lasts until the end of your turn, wherein you'll have to wait until the next dawn to use it again. This armor provides a pretty decent way to attack something that is just out of your reach without having to dash or use resources for things like Misty Step, which usually costs a 2nd level spell slot and is essentially a 30-foot gap closer or disengage tool that allows you to teleport wherever you need to on the battlefield. The projection basically cuts out the middleman by allowing you to temporarily occupy a space you need to in order to reach a target you otherwise wouldn't be able to. However, since you're not actually teleporting or putting yourself in that position when you use the bonus action, another way to look at it is to pretend that this armor's ability grants you an additional 30 feet of range when making attacks or casting spells. As a rogue, you can stand 30 feet away from an enemy while still being able to attack and proc sneak attack with your rapier, for instance. Or if you're a warlock and your target is just outside of Eldritch Blast range, you can use this armor's ability to give you the last extra 30 feet of range needed to hit your target. While all of this is well and good, there is an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed with this armor: the curse. Attuning to the armor extends its curse to you, and you remain so for as long as you are attuned to it. Taking it off doesn't end the curse either. While you're cursed by the armor, you start to hear whispers that call for you to join them as you begin to feel disconnected from your body. From then on, whenever you finish a long rest, you have to make a DC 11 Charisma save to avoid having your soul being taken and trapped inside an object found on an entirely different plane of existence, all of which are chosen by the DM. During this time, your body is inert, doesn't age, and requires no sustenance. What this means is you're basically taken out of the game until the object containing your soul is destroyed, and thus freeing it, or until the wish spell can be cast to restore your body to normal. So, to briefly review, you're basically trading an extra 30 feet of range for a small chance of having your soul ripped out of your body and trapped until the party has to take the time to find and free you. While this might make for an interesting subplot, in normal gameplay, this can be a very big inconvenience, since no one would know for sure how long it would take to recover your soul. If it would take multiple sessions, then that player might be better off making a new character in the meantime, even if that would just be temporary. Or, if the DM happens to be aware of this downside, they can prepare a session accordingly on the off chance it does happen, and can spend a quick session retrieving your soul as painlessly as possible. Either way, taking control of a player's character from said player is almost never a fun time for anyone involved. So the Voidwalker Armor sits at number 7 on this list, since unlike Harkon's Bite, where the DM might actually allow the player to keep control of the werewolf character, there really are no ifs, ands, or buts when it comes to this piece of armor. If you fail the saving throw, your soul is going to get ripped from its body, no questions asked. And paving the road for the number 6 spot on this list is the Bracelet of Rock Magic from Tales from the Yawning Portal. This is a very rare gold bracelet that grants you the benefit of being immune to the petrified condition and allows you to cast Flesh to Stone as an action. Once cast 3 times, you can no longer cast the spell, and instead gain 13 cast of Stone Shape. After using all 13 charges, the bracelet loses all of its magic and turns from gold to lead. While Flesh to Stone is a pretty decent way to effectively instant kill an enemy that you don't want to fight, a DC 15 Constitution save can make this kind of hard to pull off, since a lot of creatures in 5e tend to have a higher Constitution score than any other stat. What makes this worse is the fact that you can't even choose between casting Flesh to Stone and Stone Shape. You have to use all 3 Flesh to Stone casts first. And if having 2 middling spells weren't enough, the curse of this bracelet is also pretty terrifying. Basically, creatures that are strongly related to earth and stone, such as stone giants and dwarves, have advantage on saving throws against Flesh to Stone when cast from the bracelet. That doesn't sound much like a bad curse at first, until you learn that the curse forces the bracelet to break its attunement from you if said creature passes their saving throw, and instantly casts the same spell on you, as your body slowly petrifies because you're no longer immune to the condition as a result of the bracelet breaking its attunement from you. You only get 1 saving throw to make. If you fail, you're petrified instantly with no further saving throws to make. This magic item is a bit of a mixed bag, honestly. Immunity to being petrified is incredibly useful whenever the condition comes up. Flesh to Stone is also pretty useful since there aren't too many creatures that are immune to being turned to stone themselves. Meanwhile, Stone Shape is pretty okay outside of combat since it lets you change the terrain around you a bit, but as said before, you can only do so after using Flesh to Stone 3 times. And since there's no way to recharge any of these spells, the bracelet is already an item that won't be with you for the long haul no matter what. And since the curse of the Bracelet of Rock Magic only applies to a very specific set of creatures, the curse just seems to feel unnecessary except for flavor. Of course, this can apply both ways, where if an enemy has the bracelet and tries to use it against your dwarf party member, then they risk turning themselves into stone instead, allowing you to obtain the magic item for yourself that way. Either way, unlike the Voidwalker Armor, which does have a repeatable, albeit once per day, function that's generally useful that you can use at the risk of losing your soul, the Bracelet of Rock Magic has very niche spells, and grants immunity to a rarely occurring condition while almost guaranteeing you get turned to stone when using Flesh to Stone against very specific types of creatures is what makes this item take number 6 on this list. The only thing that would make this item be higher on this list is if the curse was more general and possibly even harsher like the next few entries on this list. And at number 5 on this list, we have the Hellhound Cloak from Tales from the Yawning Portal. This rare cloak, made of Hellhound hide, grants you the ability to transform yourself into the very creature this cloak was made from, the Hellhound. It functions exactly as if you were hit by the Polymorph spell, but you can use your bonus action to end the transformation, and it lasts for up to 1 hour. However, this being a cursed item, there are, of course, downsides for using this item. The curse of the Hellhound essence that embodies the cloak makes it so that you are not only unwilling to part with the cloak, but on the 6th time you use the cloak, and each time thereafter, you are forced to make a DC 15 Charisma save, or become transformed into a Hellhound until the effect is dispelled, or you drop to 0 hit points. You also lose the ability to willingly transform back into your normal form. To make things worse, if you ever remain a Hellhound for 6 hours, the transformation becomes permanent, and you lose your sense of self. Effectively, you become a full-fledged Hellhound, taking on all of its statistics until you're hit with a remove curse or similar magic to regain your identity and return to normal. And if that wasn't enough, if you don't regain your normal form within 6 days, the effect becomes so permanent that only a wish spell can reverse the transformation. While being able to polymorph yourself into a Hellhound might seem like a neat idea at first, running the risk of becoming one forever might not be in your best interest, as Hellhounds don't exactly have great stats. They're CR3 creatures with immunity to fire damage and 45 hit points, and come with a walking speed of 50 feet and a fire breath action they can use that recharges on a 5 or 6 on a d6 roll at the start of each of its turns, which deals 66 fire damage in a 15-foot cone to each creature that fails a fairly low dex save. Honestly, there's nothing terrible about becoming a Hellhound right before combat and then using the first turn of every combat to throw out a fire breath for the 66 fire damage, even if that's the only thing you get to do as a Hellhound before losing all your hit points, and reverting back if you get focused down. You already got your money's worth out of the item. But as the game goes on, and more creatures are able to not only make the DC 12 dexterity saving throw with ease, you will also start encountering more creatures that are outright resistant or immune to fire damage altogether, meaning your biggest draw for using the item pretty much vanishes. On top of that, once you permanently become a Hellhound, your statistics become replaced with the Hellhounds, meaning that you no longer revert back to your original form if you hit 0 hit points. And at higher levels, those 45 hit points aren't going to mean much when your party members have all broken 100 hit points, including your wizard. At that point, it becomes a matter of protecting the Hellhound from dying every combat, or avoiding combat altogether, until you can find a way to restore you back to your original form. Luckily, if you have a spellcaster with remove curse scrolls, or remove curse on standby for occasions like this, then there's not really a problem, as they can just transform you back into your original form every time you fail your charisma save. Not only that, but since you lose your sense of self after 6 hours of being a Hellhound, this could also mean that you lose control of your character, or you have to live out the rest of your character's life role-playing as the goodest member of the party, which might not be so bad for some people, which is why this item only takes the number 5 spot on this list, for potentially losing control of your character, not the role-playing as a Hellhound thing. Impatiently awaiting its time at the number 4 spot on this list is the Shield of the Tortoise from the Book of Many Things. This uncommon shield grants you a +1 bonus to AC on top of its normal bonus of a +2. But unlike other +1 shields, this one comes with the strict downside of making you so sluggish that your speed is always halved, and you treat all your initiative rolls on a d20 as a 1. This is the first cursed magic item on this list that objectively has more negatives than positives, as reducing your movement speed to half and pretty much going last in every combat for the sake of a measly +1 bonus to your AC sounds incredibly debilitating. While you aren't risking the loss of control for your character like previous entries, you are losing your ability to go first in combat, which can be crucial in a game like D&D 5e, where going first can mean the difference between ending a combat early or having to spend extra resources to achieve the same result. This is one of those items where you want to introduce it to the party by tricking them into thinking they're getting a really good magic item, only to hit them with being slower in all the ways that any player would find annoying. You can potentially use Remove Curse to still gain the +1 bonus to AC without the negative downsides, but at that point, it might just be safer to unattune to the shield and replace it with a ring or cloak of protection while buying or crafting a +1 shield that doesn't require attunement. There isn't a lot to really say about the Shield of the Tortoise. It takes number 4 on this list for having a minor positive effect and 2 major negative effects and nothing else. That being said, being at number 4 should be telling as to how bad these next 3 cursed items are going to be in comparison. And at number 3, we have Falkir's Helm of Pigheadedness from Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. This steel helm takes on the shape of the head of a boar. Once you don the helm, only something akin to a Remove Curse spell will allow you to remove it. You can also die to be able to have the helm removed as well. Luckily for you, if you're a humanoid wearing this helm, your character's flaw is replaced with, I'm exceedingly stubborn and think I'm right all the time. Even if the flaw would conflict with this new one, that's really all there is to this item. You don't gain any inherent benefits from wearing the helm, you just become right all the time, which could technically count as a benefit if reality backed up your new stubborn nature. However, at the end of the day, all this item really does is make you a total annoyance, as you become too stubborn to ever admit that you were wrong about anything, even if there is proof right in front of you. Luckily, that's all this helm does. This helm isn't an item that is detrimental to the party by default, nor does it provide any cool or unique benefits like some of the other magic items on this list. So number 3 is a perfect spot for it to be at. I should know because I'm always right when it comes to tier lists. And being sworn to carry its burdens instead of yours at number 2 on this list is the Loadstone from Tales from the Yawning Portal. This is a rare gemstone that is worth a respectable 150 gold pieces and possesses no other apparent qualities. It doesn't grant you any positive benefits, nor does it actively punish you for simply holding it, and you don't even need to attune to it. To you and anyone else, it's just an ordinary gemstone. Even Detect Magic doesn't tell you anything special about it. However, if you manage to be in a rush to cash in your newly found treasure, you'll find that it's suddenly become harder to do so, as the moment you use the dash or disengage action at any time while the stone is on your person, the curse hidden within activates. Until the curse is broken with a Remove Curse or similar magic, your speed is now reduced by 5 feet, while your maximum load and lift capacities are both halved. And, of course, you also become unwilling to part with the stone. While many campaigns won't worry too much about equipment load and encumbrance rules, those that do will quickly find themselves unable to carry around even some of the most basic adventuring gear items, while also finding themselves not being able to lift much either. This could especially be debilitating on a barbarian party member, whom you've been relying on to pick up heavy objects or carry bigger stuff with their immense strength stat. On top of that, however, while having your movement speed reduced by 5 feet doesn't sound so bad, imagine all those times playing a smaller race character using the old 2014 rules, having only 25 feet of movement as opposed to 30 feet, and barely coming up to 5 feet short of the enemy you're trying to reach is just not a fun experience. Overall, the Loadstone is nothing more than an annoying gemstone that fetches a pretty copper early on in the game, with its only saving grace being that it doesn't require any attunement slots like so many other curse items do. If it did, then the Loadstone would definitely take the number 1 spot on this list. Or at least that would be the case, except that our number 1 entry actually does something even worse than waste your attunement slot. And granting yourself the kind of bad luck that you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy at number 1 on this list is the Stone of Ill Luck from Tales of the Yawning Portal. This uncommon item bestows upon the holder the unfortunate misfortune of becoming cursed by the item, providing a -2 penalty to ability checks and saving throws, but not really. See, the gem itself grants a +1 bonus like a normal Stone of Good Luck does, but secretly penalizes the rolls by -2, which technically means that their ability checks and saves are being made at a -1 deficit. While it does technically provide a singular benefit, the Stone of Ill Luck is monstrously worse than every other item on this list because of how much it downgrades your character's most important D20 rolls that aren't attack rolls. While it might not be incredibly hard to learn that your character has come into possession of a Stone of Ill Luck by just paying attention to key information, such as one character succeeding on saving throws while you fail despite rolling the same total on the dice tray, it can become a bit of a frustrating experience when you do learn that all of your rolls, up to a certain point, have been much lower than what you're used to. Imagine knowing that you could pass a saving throw by rolling a 19 or 20 on a bad stat, only to come to find out that it was actually impossible the entire time. Or maybe you even realize that you may have barely failed an important persuasion check that the party was relying on you to succeed at because of that -1 penalty. To put this into perspective, the Stone of Ill Luck basically puts your character at an arbitrary -2 deficit to all of your primary stats when it comes to making ability checks and saving throws. Instead of a 20 dexterity for that sweet +5 to stealth checks, you're being treated as if you had 18 dexterity instead for a more middling +4 bonus. As for the 8 intelligence dump stat for that -1 penalty, well, how does being treated like having 6 intelligence for a debilitating -2 penalty sound? So good luck not being hit by a Mind Flayer's Mind Blast. To add insult to injury, even if you were to discover the curse, you can't really do anything about it until you're hit with a remove curse or similar magic, as you become unwilling to part with the stone, which could also be another way to tell you that the item is cursed, I suppose. The reason why this Stone of Ill Luck takes the top spot on this list is not the fact that this item wastes your attunement slot like all the others. It's not the fact that it bestows you negative effects like the other cursed items. It's the fact that the item basically lies to you and makes you believe that you're doing better than you actually are, when actually your dreams have been 2 steps out of reach this entire time. You trust the stone to be granting yourself great luck, when actually it's been sowing misfortune instead. You might pass it off as a DM just making DC checks higher as a way of balancing your newfound power, but in reality, that's just you rationalizing away your sudden unlucky streak. The Stone of Ill Luck doesn't just grant you negative effects along with a positive, it grants you severe negative penalties while granting you the illusion of becoming better at everything, when, in fact, it does the exact opposite, and thus is why the Stone of Ill Luck takes #1 spot on this list.